With an effort that has been going on for a long time, several PS2 games had their online servers back online. Some games are more straightforward to connect, while others require a DNS patch to work, and in this video I'll show you what to do step by step in both cases before you choose what game you want to play online. We'll begin by downloading the best PS2 emulator, BCSX2. The link will be down below on the fixed comment of this video. And here on the main page, you want to click here on latest nightly and then download the emulator for the operational system you're using. In my case, I have Windows, so this is where I'm gonna click here. The emulator will come as a zipped file, so you're gonna need either WinRAR or 7-zip to extract it. I would personally recommend 7-zip over WinRAR actually, and I created a folder called PS2 on the desktop of my computer, and now here on the file, I'm just gonna double click on it. It's gonna open with 7-zip, and now I'm just gonna extract all the contents here to the same folder where the original file was. You can go ahead and delete the original file. We're not gonna need this anymore. And here, before we start the actual installation, click here on View and make sure that File Name Extensions is enabled right here. This is required for what we are about to do right now. So before we start the actual installation of the emulator, you're gonna right-click here on the folder, and then you're gonna select New, and then click on Text Document. This file will be generated, and you're gonna rename this file here to portable, and on the .txt you're gonna erase the txt and replace it with ini, exactly like this. It has to be written exactly like this, and when you click away, it's going to ask if you really want to change this one, and then click on yes. And if you see this little gear here next to the program, it means you did it right. Now you're gonna click here on this PCSX2 executable, so just double click on it, and if you did it right, all these folders will show up right here, just like it was before, but this is something that they changed it on the latest version of this emulator. There's a few options here if you want to change the language and the theme of the emulator. I'm just gonna leave everything on default here, so go ahead and click on next. Here we're gonna have to select the folder to where the BIOS files are gonna be. I can't show here on the video where to go or even mention where you could find it because that's against YouTube's policy. But it shouldn't be too hard to find if you know what I mean. And when you have them with you, you're gonna place them on the BIOS folder here on the emulator folder, just like this. Now go back to the installation program here and then click on refresh list. And like that, the BIOS should appear here. I got the Japanese version, but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. This is not gonna affect the installation or anything like that. So now click here on next. And on this tab, we're gonna have to select the folder to where you want the emulator to scan for the games. And in my case, I like creating a folder here on the emulator folder. Click on new and then folder. I just create a new one here called games, just to keep everything on the same place. Right now, go here back on the emulator and then click here on add, and it should open the emulator folder by default. So now you just have to select that games folder that we just created and click on select. It's going to ask if you want the emulator to scan this every time. Click on yes, and there you go. The folder directory should appear right here. Now click on next. And on this screen, we can configure our controller, and this emulator has a automatic mapping function. So if you already have your controller plugged in, you're gonna click here on automatic mapping, and it's going to list all the devices you are using. In my case, I have a Xbox controller, so I'm gonna click here on SDL0 X input controller, but you can use your keyboard as well if that's the case. You can configure this later inside the emulator, by the way. If you have a second controller, you just have to do the exact same thing here on controller port 2. Now, click here on next, and with that, we have finished the installation of the emulator, and it should appear right here. This will be a good time to subscribe to the channel and also leave a like on this video. First, you're gonna click here on settings inside the emulator. Then click here on Network and HDD. This window will show up, and right here, you're gonna click on Enabled, and on Ethernet device type, you're gonna change this to Sockets, and on Internet device, you're gonna choose the internet connection you're using on your PC. In case you have multiple connections and you don't know which one you're currently using, you can click here on the internet icon on Windows, click on it with the right button and then select Open Network and Internet Settings, and it should tell you right here the number of the connection you're using. Both wired and Wi-Fi connections will work for this. All the information on the current states of what games can be played online on the PS2 can be found here on this spreadsheet. And it basically comes down to some games have their online setup straightforward, while others require a DNS patch in order for it to work. And you can see that in here. Games that are covered in green, their online setup is very easy to do, and games that are covered in yellow require the extra DNS patch in order for them to work. I'm gonna use Star Wars Battlefront 2 as the first example because this game is green, so the installation is easy. And right next to it, it lists what DNS server you're gonna use to connect this game online. For Battlefront 2, both the Christian and the Star Wars Battlefront Spy server can be worked here, and you can find that information if you just put your mouse on top of it. This window will show up, and then you just click here on DNS numbers. And right here, you have all the servers available for PS2 online. They even list the website that has extra information about the server and also a Discord server too, which is the best way that you're gonna find people to play online. So Battlefront 2, like we saw, can be worked on the Christian or the Star Wars Battlefront Spy server. And I'm gonna use this server right here because since this one is more dedicated to the Battlefront games themselves, there's a higher chance that you're gonna find people playing online on this one. And when you are in possession of the game, you're gonna place it on that games folder, on the emulator folder that we just created. When you do that, I want you to go back to the emulator here and then click on Scan for New Games. If you had your emulator open while doing all of this, if not, you can just start the emulator, it should open as such. And now the game should appear right here. So we're gonna start by double-click the game itself to open it up. And if you're playing on the emulator for the very first time, it's going to ask you to create a new memory card here, which is required for the online as well. So in my case, I'm just gonna click here on Save. It's gonna ask if you want to format it, click on yes, let it do its thing. And on the menu for the game, you're gonna have the multiplayer option here. You're gonna click on Internet, of course. Just keep pressing OK until you get to a screen similar to this one. So you're gonna click there on Add or Edit New Memory Card. And it's going to open the PS2 network configuration screen right here. This screen will be the same for every game. So you're gonna click there on Add Setting, click Memory Card Slot 1 or 2 depending on where you created. Scroll down to the right, choose the network adapter that we chose on the emulator, click OK, and then scroll to the right. No need for this one, click on Not Required. Here on the IP, set it to Auto as well. Now here on this screen on DNS, you're gonna select the manual option and then scroll to the right. And this is where we're going to input the network information from the spreadsheet. I'm gonna put it here side by side so it's better to see. So you're gonna press X and you're gonna input that server here, starting with 66, go to the right, 85, scroll to the right, 14, and then 80. Leave the secondary DNS as it is. Now scroll to the right. It's going to do a little test here for the connection. It shouldn't take long. And the message saying that the text was successful. Now click on K. You can name here a setting for this one. It's best if you name it depending on the game you're playing so that you know which memory card you should use. For this one, I'm just gonna name it BF2 so that I know. Press Start. Scroll to the right. Ask you to confirm the information. Click on OK, and we're done. Now it's going to restart the game. When you click on here on back, ask you if you want to quit, press quit. Now click again on Internet, and it will list the memory card that we use it for the network setting. So just click on Select. We'll test the network. Once again, just wait until it's finished. And we are now online. Now, if the game you're trying to play requires the patch and it's not available here on the spreadsheet, in this case, we're gonna need to download and place the patch ourselves. That is the case for TOCA Race Driver 2. It is a yellow game, and then you're gonna go to the DNS info column and you're gonna download the patch here from the console PS2 column. This is the code if you were going to play on an actual PS2 hardware, but there is a way to convert it for the emulator using this software right here, the multi-converter, and then download the latest version here, 2.3, download it and place it on the folder of your preference. I placed mine on the same emulator folder here, so you're gonna extract the contents of it. There's a single .exe file inside anyway, and you're just gonna double click here on the .exe file, and it's going to ask if you want to use the decrypting feature. Click on no, click on OK, then the program will open. Now, assuming that you already downloaded the game and placed it on the games folder on the emulator, go ahead and download the patch as well. Click here to take you to this Google Drive page. Just click here on download and place it on the cheats folder on the emulator. Now back on the emulator folder, go to the cheats folder right here and then extract the patch from outside the zip file, of course, like this. Now you're gonna open the multi-converter software here, and then you're gonna drag and drop the patch file into this raw table right here, just like this. And then the patch for the online will appear. Before converting to the format that the emulator used, first you're gonna copy the name of the game right here. Just copy this one and paste it here on game title, and also the CRC for the game. The CRC can be found on the emulator itself. So open the emulator again, the game should appear right here, and then click on it with the right button, and then select properties here. And here you can find the CRC for this game. So just select everything, copy, go back to the multi-converter here, and then paste the code in the CRC. Now just click here on 2pnec, and it's going to generate the code as such. Now we have to save this information, so just click here on save, and it should open the cheats folder by default. Keep the name as it is. This is required for it to work on the emulator. So now I just have to click here on save, and we're done. Now I can close this one. And to apply the patch into the game, there are two ways you can do this. First is by right-clicking the game here, and then select properties, and then click here on cheats, and then the patch itself will appear here. So you just have to click here on enable cheats, and we're ready. The second way of doing this, which is the one that I would recommend using, is by clicking here on settings, and then go to emulation, and then click here enable cheats. This will make the emulator enable any cheats that it can find on the cheats folder, so that you don't have to enable them game by game. Now you can close this screen and then start the game and configure the DNS server like I showed you at the beginning of the video. I have many videos like this on the channel covering how to install and play games on emulators, focusing on the best graphics and performance, and I always try to teach in the easiest way to understand. So if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and check my other stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.